Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is the show where we take your sources, we really dig into them, and pull out the most valuable insights for you.
Yeah, think of us as your shortcut to getting, properly informed on the stuff that matters.
And today we are diving into a really fascinating book. It basically challenges, well, pretty much everything we think we know about time management, about productivity.
It really does. And it tackles this central puzzle.
Mm.
We live in a world that's just overflowing with life hacks, efficiency tools, endless advice.
Oh, yeah, you can't escape it.
Right. But despite all that, why do so many of us feel kind of paradoxically busier than ever, more anxious, and just, I don't know, fundamentally unfulfilled?
Exactly. It feels like we've got all the supposed tools to master time, but somehow we feel less in control. It's strange.
It really is.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the core arguments from this book. We want to understand why our usual efforts to control time often seem to backfire so badly.
And maybe explore what a different approach could look like. Something, maybe more realistic and hopefully more fulfilling for you
Yeah.
in your work, in your life.
Okay, so where does it start? It kicks off with a pretty stark reality check, doesn't it?
It really does. It starts with the actual amount of time we've likely been given.
Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The book opens with this number that, honestly, when I first read it, it startled me. 4,000 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's roughly the average human lifespan. 4,000 weeks. That's it.
It's pretty confronting when you see it written down like that, isn't it? Especially
Wow.
when you contrast it with, like, our capacity for plans.
Yeah, our ambitions are huge.
Exactly. As Seneca pointed out centuries ago, our minds can dream up these vast, sprawling projects, futures stretching out forever almost.
But the actual time we have.
It's incredibly brief.
Yeah.
The physical space, the clock time to actually do any of it, very limited.
And the book points out something else that makes it feel even worse. Time seems to speed up as we get older.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling. So it's not just that 4,000 is maybe smaller than we'd like, but the weeks you have left feel like they're just whizzing by faster and faster.
Yeah, making that dwindling supply feel even more, urgent.
And what's striking, the book argues, is that despite this undeniable reality finite time, accelerating time, our modern focus on managing it stays so narrow.
Totally. It's all tactical stuff, isn't it? Squeeze in one more task, optimize your morning, batch your email.
Inbox 0 for 5 minutes.
Exactly. And look, those things might make you feel productive in the moment, but they completely sidestep the bigger questions that this brevity raises.
It feels like rearranging deck chairs, doesn't it, on a very fast ship, maybe a ship that isn't even going where you truly want to end up.
That's a great way to put it. The world has massive issues. Your own life has deep relationships, unexpected turns.
And most productivity advice just kind of ignores all that complexity to focus on, like your to-do list for Tuesday.
Precisely. It operates as if you can somehow just engineer your way around the fundamental fact that, well, time is running out.
Which brings us right to the book's big critique. Why does this conventional approach to mastering time so often fail? Or even make us feel worse?
Right. The source unpacks this by looking at how typical productivity tools work. They're often effective at increasing output. You clear your inbox faster.
Attend more meetings, juggle more calls.
Yeah, you get more done. But paradoxically, it leaves us feeling more frantic, more overwhelmed, and definitely less fulfilled.
There's that analogy in the book, the conveyor belt one.
Yes, from Edward T. Hall. Productivity tools don't actually clear the belt. They just make it run faster.
So as soon as you deal with one thing,
boom, the next one arrives. Even quicker. Eventually, you just can't keep up. It's inherently unsustainable.
And that sounds an awful lot like burnout, which the book definitely connects to this relentless pressure.
Absolutely. That crushing fatigue from constantly trying to operate like some kind of human production machine.
Yeah.
Not a person. And here's where it gets really counterintuitive, according to the book. The harder you try to control time, the more that control seems to slip away.
How does that work?
Well, think about all the tech that's supposed to save us time. Microwaves, instant messaging, super fast internet.
Logically, we should be swimming in free time.
Right. But it feels like the opposite. We get impatient if a website takes, 2 seconds to load. Waiting 20 minutes for something to bake used to be normal. Now it feels like an eternity.
Or the classic inbox 0 thing again. You finally achieve it, you feel that brief moment of,
And then ping, ping, ping. 3 new emails land instantly.
So being efficient at clearing email just generates more email.
Often, yeah. The book argues it's not the tech itself necessarily. It's the mindset it encourages, this expectation of speed, of instant response. Any tiny delay feels like a failure, and it just ramps up our impatience and dissatisfaction.
This definitely wasn't what Keynes predicted back in the day, was it?
Not at all. He famously thought, back in 1930, that technology would solve the economic problem. He predicted a 15-hour work week within a century.
Wow. 15 hours. Imagine.
He genuinely thought the big challenge for humanity would be figuring out what to do with all our leisure time.
And instead,
Instead, we invented endless new things to want, new goals to strive for, new markers of status. Busyness itself became a status symbol. I'm so busy means I'm important.
right. And the book points out a darker side, too, that this culture of relentless efficiency at the top can trickle down, creating pressure and precarity for people in less secure jobs.
Forcing them to work even harder just to keep up, just to maintain a basic standard.
Which leads to this really common feeling, I think. You're incredibly busy, rushing around, but you have this nagging sense that you're not actually spending your limited time on what truly matters to you.
Yes, that vague, unsettling feeling Charles Eisenstein describes, that something's fundamentally off. Life wasn't meant to feel like this constant, anxious scramble.
And the book's argument is that this focus on pure optimization, on productivity above all else, actively pushes us away from the meaningful stuff.
Yeah, we end up living what it calls a provisional life, always putting off what's truly important.
Deferring it to some imaginary future point, when I finally have time, when things calm down.
Right. Which, spoiler alert, might never really arrive. And there's this concept of joyless urgency. We're frantically preparing ourselves, even our kids, for ends that aren't really our own.
It serves the economy, maybe?
Sure, the economic machine benefits, but it doesn't bring peace of mind. It doesn't leave space for deep connection or for the things we supposedly cherish.
So the conclusion is pretty stark then. Modern time management, based on this idea of mastering time like it's some external thing.
It's failed. It's failed precisely because it ignores these deeper human realities, these anxieties about finitude.
Because fundamentally, time isn't the thing you can master. It's not a resource like coal or oil.
Exactly. And that's a huge mental shift. The book points out this idea of time as a measurable commodity you can spend or waste is actually quite recent.
Right, like medieval peasants didn't think that way.
Not according to the source, no. Time wasn't something separate from them to be used efficiently. It was just the medium they lived in, the rhythm of the day, the cycle of the seasons.
And the book credits the invention of the clock, partly, for changing that perception. Lewis Mumford's work on that.
The mechanical clock helped make time feel abstract, measurable, quantifiable, something you could chop up, save, lose, manage.
And that modern mindset leads directly to the pressure, the guilt over wasting time.
And the default assumption that if you feel overwhelmed, the answer must be more efficiency, more effort. Try harder.
Like we're just units of production that need optimizing.
Which sets up this game you just can't win, trying to master your time, because time isn't an obstacle, it's the fabric of existence.
Yeah.
And trying to master it forces you into this instrumental view of every moment. Is it useful? Will it pay off later?
Which kills your ability to just be present, to have that deep time experience of being fully immersed.
Exactly. And this leads to what the book calls the paradox of limitation, which is fascinating.
Okay, what's the paradox?
It's this. The harder you fight against your limits, the fact you can't do everything, you can't control the future, your time will run out, the more overwhelmed and, ironically, the less free you feel.
Right.
But the more you accept those limitations, the more you lean into the reality of your finitude, the more focused, meaningful, and ultimately fulfilling your time becomes.
Okay, that feels totally backwards.
Yeah.
How does accepting limitation lead to freedom? It sounds like giving up.
Well, the book argues our struggle against time often comes from trying to avoid uncomfortable truths. Finitude, lack of total control. We use frantic productivity or even chronic procrastination as ways to keep up the illusion that we're somehow limitless or fully in charge.
So the freedom comes from just facing it,
Yeah.
admitting it.
Yes. Confronting the reality. There's a story in the source about someone whose friend died suddenly. Soon after, he was stuck in traffic, something normally infuriating.
Oh yeah, the worst.
But instead, he thought, what would my friend have given just to be stuck in this traffic jam right now? And suddenly, that annoyance flipped into gratitude.
Wow.
Accepting that life is borrowed time, that any moment could be it, makes you grateful for the simple fact of being here, experiencing anything, even the frustrations.
That's powerful. And accepting you only have so much time must also free you from beating yourself up for not getting everything done.
Absolutely. It makes choices unavoidable. You have to decide what to focus on and, crucially, what you're going to consciously let go of.
Which connects to that joy of missing out idea.
The JOMO. It's the realization, which can actually feel quite thrilling, that you wouldn't actually want to do everything, even if you could. The fact that you must choose is what gives your choices weight and meaning.
You choose this, which means you're not choosing all those other things, and that's okay. That's necessary.
Exactly. And sometimes real freedom isn't about having infinite options or total control. It's about surrendering a bit. Letting your life be shaped by, community rhythms, family needs, the natural pace of certain kinds of work.
Okay, so if we accept this, if we stop trying to master time, how does that change things practically? What do we actually do day to day?
Well, the focus shifts. Managing your limited time becomes less about cramming more in and more about making wise, often difficult decisions about what not to do and finding peace with those decisions.
So becoming a better procrastinator, as the book puts it.
Yes, but in a strategic way. Not avoiding the important stuff out of fear, but consciously choosing which tasks, requests, even whole projects you're going to neglect or delay indefinitely.
So you can actually focus your limited attention on what truly matters most.
Precisely. The sign of a really good time management strategy, in this view, isn't how much it helps you do, but how wisely it helps you choose what not to do.
That feels radical, like actively deciding beforehand what you're going to fail at or do minimally.
It is. You could almost apply a Marie Kondo approach to your to-do list. Does this task, this meeting, this obligation, does it align with what truly matters? If not, maybe it's time to thank it and let it go.
And resisting the pull of middling priorities, that's a key one.
Oh, yeah. Those things you'd like to do, they seem appealing, but they aren't actually top-tier important for you.
Like the Warren Buffett story, list your top 25 goals, circle the top 5, and then actively avoid the other 20 like the plague.
Exactly. Because those number 6 through 25 goals, they're dangerous. They're attractive enough to distract you, but not important enough to form the core of a meaningful life.
As Elizabeth Gilbert apparently said, the hardest bit is saying no to things you do want to do.
Because you recognize you only have this one life, these 4,000 weeks. You have to make the hard calls.
This ties right into another really powerful point the book makes, that our attention isn't just a resource.
It is life itself. Your actual lived experience of being alive moment by moment is simply the sum total of what you pay attention to.
So if you're constantly distracted,
You're literally spending your finite life on things that don't really matter to you. It's a profound thought.
and it's not just the external distractions, is it? Like phones buzzing, notifications.
No, the book talks about the intimate interrupter too. That internal urge we all have to seek distraction, to escape discomfort.
Especially when we're trying to focus on something hard or meaningful.
Yes, because focusing on challenging work often brings us face to face with our limits, with boredom, frustration, the uncertainty of it all. That's uncomfortable.
So we reach for our phones or check email again.
Right. The Zen perspective mentioned suggests not fighting the discomfort, but acknowledging it. There's that feeling of wanting to escape, and then gently redirecting your attention back to the task at hand.
Which makes patience like a superpower in today's world.
Absolutely. Resisting the urge to rush everything, allowing things to take the time they naturally need, finding value in the process, not just the outcome.
Like that professor making students stare at one painting for hours.
Exactly. Forcing that deep, patient attention. The book suggests practical ways to cultivate this. Appreciating that having problems is life, not a detour from it. Practicing radical incrementalism, small, consistent steps, fierce single-tasking, even welcoming difficult feelings instead of running from them.
The book also tackles that pressure that a lot of us feel to do something hugey with our lives, something great.
That need to find some cosmically significant purpose, which can feel totally paralyzing.
Yeah, or make everyday life seem kind of pointless in comparison.
And the book offers this truth, which sounds blunt, maybe even depressing at first, but is ultimately meant to be liberating.
Okay, what is it?
It's basically this. What you do with your life probably doesn't matter that much in the grand cosmic scheme of things. Your time is finite, the universe is vast and ancient, and it doesn't hinge on your specific achievements.
Okay, I'm still leaning towards depressing. How is that liberating?
Because it frees you from the crushing weight of impossible standards. You don't have to be a Michelangelo or a Marie Curie to justify your existence or to feel like your time is well spent.
So letting go of the need for remarkableness.
Yeah. It allows a much wider range of ordinary, achievable things to count as meaningful, things that are right in front of you.
Like making decent meals for your kids consistently, or creating something beautiful just for a few people, or doing your job well, helping others, even if it's not world-changing.
Absolutely. Those things are meaningful uses of your finite time. Honoring your 4,000 weeks isn't about vowing to leave some immortal legacy. It's more about accepting life as it actually is, finite, fleeting, often messy.
But also kind of amazing in the everyday details.
Exactly. It frees you from constantly comparing your actual limited life to some abstract, impossible ideal.
Which brings us back to that idea of the human disease, this fantasy that we can gain total control, total mastery over time in life to feel safe.
Right. And how that leads to the provisional life, where the real living, the real meaning is always deferred, always later.
When I finally finish this, achieve that, feel ready.
But as Heidegger argued, and Borges put so poetically, we are time. We can't step outside it to manage it like an engineer managing a machine.
So feeling insecure, feeling vulnerable, that's not a sign something's wrong.
No, the book argues that's the default state. That's just part of being human and finite. Accepting this feels like admitting defeat, but you're not admitting defeat to life.
You're admitting defeat to your illusions.
Exactly. The illusion that you can do everything. The illusion you can avoid tough choices. The illusion you can force the world onto your schedule.
Okay, but what do you get when you give up those illusions? What's the payoff for that acceptance?
You get to actually be here, now. You get to engage with the reality of your life as it unfolds, not some fantasy future. You get to focus your precious, finite time and energy on the handful of things that truly matter right now.
And this isn't saying ditch long-term goals, right?
No, not at all. It's recognizing that even those big long-term commitments only ever exist and matter now in the effort you put in moment by moment today.
So peace doesn't come from finally solving the problem of having limited time.
No. The book concludes, peace comes from recognizing that the inability to solve it, the inability to escape finitude, isn't the problem itself.
Like Charlotte Joko Beck said, the struggles are part of life. They only become unbearable when we think there should be a cure.
Precisely. The freedom isn't seeing that. Like that moment peeling an apple, realizing life will always just give you a series of wonderfully insoluble problems, and accepting that brings a kind of peace.
That is a really different way to think about it all. So to help listeners, you personally engage with this, the source offers 5 questions at the end.
Yeah, not necessarily questions you answer once and you're done. More like questions to live with, as Rilke suggested.
Okay, what's the first one?
Where in your life or your work are you currently seeking comfort or certainty, when actually what's needed might be a bit of discomfort or uncertainty?
Like choosing comfortable shrinking over uncomfortable growth.
Kind of, yeah. Where are you avoiding necessary difficulty?
Okay.
Second question.
In what ways are you holding yourself to and judging yourself by standards of productivity or performance that are basically impossible to meet?
Recognizing those lets you drop the impossible targets and just pick something meaningful you can do today.
Exactly. Third, in what ways have you not yet fully accepted that you are who you are right now, not the person you think you should be?
Ooh, that's deep. Freeing yourself from needing external validation to feel okay about how you spend your time.
Grounding your choices in who you actually are. Fourth, in which areas are you still holding back, waiting until you feel like you really know what you're doing?
Accepting that pretty much everyone is just winging it to some extent.
Yeah, which removes the main excuse for not taking bold, intentional action now, even if you feel uncertain.
And the last one.
How would you spend your days differently if you didn't care so much about seeing your actions reach fruition? So focusing less on controlling the outcome and more on finding meaning in the work itself, in the present effort.
Precisely. Regardless of whether you get to see the final result.
Wow. Those 5 questions really get to the core of it, don't they? They're not about tweaking your calendar app. They're about fundamentally changing your relationship with time, with control, with yourself.
Yeah. Applying them, whether it's getting better at saying no to those middling priorities at work, or just being truly present with your family instead of mentally checking your email, that can really shift your experience of your finite time.
So this deep dive has taken us from that often exhausting battle to control time
to this potentially liberating acceptance of its limits and the power that comes from making conscious, present choices within those limits.
The goal isn't to magically do everything or be some kind of historical figure. It's more about choosing what few things truly deserve your attention, your energy, your 4,000 weeks.
And embracing the messiness, the fact that you will miss out on tons of other possibilities, and that's okay.
And maybe the biggest takeaway is that the struggles themselves, the overwhelm, the hard choices, the lack of total control, they aren't problems to be cured.
Right. They're just part of the deal of being human.
Right.
And accepting that, really accepting it, can bring this profound sense of freedom. The freedom to stop fighting reality and just be here now. Finding the marvelous in the ordinary constraints of these brief, precious weeks.